Welcome to the Property Profits Real Estate Podcast, the show where real estate investors talk strategy, capital, deals, and growth with your host, Dave Dubeau.
A lot of folks are kind of curious about family offices, what they are, how they work, how to work with them, how to get connected with people in family offices. Well, today's guest, zooming in from Los Angeles, Daniel Kaufman, knows a thing or two about family offices. He is the third generation of his family to be running their family office. And the Kaufman companies do a lot of different things. And Daniel, we'll go over kind of what you guys do. You gave me the big broad strokes. So maybe, first of all, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you.
But maybe you can give us a little snapshot of what you guys do, the different things that you do with the Kaufman Group of companies.
Yeah, and I like to say we're in every asset class because we are. We're purely opportunistic and we follow the data, but we also follow our experience and our gut instinct as well. We try to be a bit contrarian. So if you like hockey, Wayne Gretzky always said, don't skate to where the puck has been, but skate to where the puck is going. So that's part of our kind of thesis and mantra is always to have our crystal ball out and try to figure out where people are moving next, where the jobs are, where population is shifting. Obviously, as a family office, as we were talking earlier, we do everything kind of from cradle to grave, right? So we buy a piece of land internally with our own team. We zone it, entitle it internally. We design and architect it. We build it ourselves within our platform, and then we manage it, or potentially down the road, we dispose of it. While we're in our own kind of platform, we also work with many other partners. And what we like to say, we bring ingenuity. And what that ingenuity can be, could be us bringing the land. It could be us doing the zoning and entitlements for them. It could be debt or equity. It could be the construction. It could be the design and architecture. It could be the property management. It could be all of the above. So, in many of the deals we're in right now, outside our platform, outside the family office, our role can be very different.
Okay, very good. So many different moving pieces. How many folks do you have working with you within the family office?
Yeah, so in our Los Angeles office, we have about 49 people that work in Los Angeles. We have a Dallas office, which had 11 people. We have an office in Florida that has 6 or 7 people working in it. And then in our various entities, so what we've done is we've vertically integrated. So we have a larger platform, but in that we have a land acquisition company. We have a company that does our zoning and entitlements. They also do it outside for third parties. We have a company that does our design and architecture, another one that does construction, and then a property management firm and a capital markets group as well. All those are separate companies, but they are wholly owned by our platform. They all have different names. Some of them interact publicly, some do not. Those are fully staffed companies. They're outside our offices. So all told, if we said, hey, how many people do we directly employ? Around 1,100 people in various companies that we own.
Fascinating. So you've been part of this. You're part of the family. You're the third generation in the companies. How did it kind of get started? What did it start out as 3 generations ago?
Yeah, it started as a home building company into the early part of the 80s. From there, transitioned purely to an investment portfolio. And about 6 years ago, it transitioned into a fully formed collection of companies. So we had all these moving parts. They all kind of operated separately. Some of them competed against each other. What I've done over the past 6 years is combine them into a single platform.
Yeah, I can only imagine what a huge task that was, getting everything kind of coordinated like that. So Daniel, I haven't interviewed a lot of family office guys before. I've interviewed a few, but it sounds like the way you were set up is much more robust than the traditional family office. So how did that kind of morph into this, so many different things that you guys are into at this point?
Well, I will say it is and it isn't. There's lots of family offices, and many of them are very secretive. So we're not the only ones that have created this. I am just comfortable talking about it. Now, obviously, we don't let people peek under the hood unless they're a partner, but I'm happy because as we were talking earlier, what my goal in these podcasts is to positively impact somebody who is in this real estate space, because a lot of bad advice, or people that are charging for their time and come to my seminar and I will tell you my secrets. I feel like, because in my career, people gave me this information for free, just because that's how it is. I mean, I kind of look at this as kind of globally mentoring. So in the world of family offices, many of these families are. And what does a family office mean? I mean, anybody who has a family in an office and some money is a family office, right? The space means you could be, have $5 to your name, or in some of these cases have billions and billions of dollars, right? One of the family offices we work with, and we partner with, is very secretive, and the person behind it probably would be in the Forbes top 10 or 15, but he doesn't appear on it. That's the true family office. And he has a collection of companies like we do, but takes pride in the fact that you could never figure out.
Nobody knows who he is. Yeah.
Right. No one knows who he is. We are okay being semi in the public eye. And again, we're not here. I'm not here to have this conversation with you to say, hey, give me money. I'm here twofold. One is, hey, if something I say is of interest, at the end of the conversation, we'll tell you how to find me. Maybe I can, help you and guide you the right way, just like you do. Or, hey, if you have a great deal, come to us. We are not in the taking capital. We're actually in the allocating capital space. So some of the best deals come to me through this medium. I have someone I'm working with in Nashville, a young developer who's in his early 30s. I'm mentoring him, and that conversation came from a show like this. And I'm, mentoring him and taking my own time, not charging for it. But now we're going to invest in one of his projects. So I think this is a great way to do that. And I say to everybody, there are so many people out there like us. They're harder to find, but are so different than the standard way we raise capital, or the hard money lenders, or all these things that are out here. The family offices take big risks. They can. And there's many ways to find them. I'm happy to discuss that, separately. But, I'm always open to people reaching out and saying, hey, I've got a piece of land. Would you be interested?
Okay, great. So Daniel, speaking of bad advice, what is some of the stuff that you're hearing these days that kind of just rubs you the wrong way, that you go, oh, geez, I wish people knew what the truth was? So what's an example of something that it's just bad advice you hear going on?
I wouldn't say much bad advice, but what I see is people who are in the real estate space, whether it's, home flipping, or it's, Airbnbs, or it's, developing something new and you're starting out, or if you're, down the line, is borrowing money at these ridiculous rates. I look at a lot of these deals and people go with these hard money lenders, which frankly, I think this should be completely illegal. The interest that is charged is so much higher than what, you could borrow at from a bank, or, even a family office. So, that's one of the areas that truly concerns me, Dave, is it's not so much bad advice or advice at all. It's a way that we see people taking advantage of inexperienced developers. There was a father and son that came to me that were in Utah. First development project. Someone had told them that starting off with 250 units was okay. That was bad advice for their first project ever. Zero experience in that area. And then they ended up borrowing money from this group, and it ended up at 18% interest. How does anybody ever get from under that? How does that even pencil? And before they even, they were already in the hole the minute they started the project. So I think that's where I say is a bit of the bad advice. Also, don't pay for what we're doing now. There's many things you can buy, books and things of that nature, but going to some sort of seminar that someone's going to charge you $100,000 for, when you get that same information free in the library, I think that is one of the pieces of advice I give to, don't go to an influencer, don't get your advice on Instagram, or, all these different sources. Talk to someone like you, Dave, and read the material you're putting out, or talk to someone like myself who their interest isn't to take advantage. Their interest is to share their knowledge and experience. So not so much advice, but just something I view and really end of the day bothers me. And, if, again, through your, podcast, if one person reaches out and I keep them away from borrowing at a rate that doesn't pencil just because they really want to be a real estate developer, I'd be very happy.
Okay, well, it sounds like, well, obviously you got tons of experience with development. You've spoken about a couple of different developers and situations they've gotten themselves into. So if somebody's thinking about getting into the development business, what advice would you give that person? Obviously, go to the library, get some books, read some stuff. But a lot of people might say, playing the devil's advocate, well, that's easy for you, Daniel. You come from a wealthy family and you've had people
No,
doing this
I would
kind of
say
stuff.
I didn't. I didn't give that. I didn't get the wealth right away. So I had to start. I actually, in 1992, borrowed $10,000 from my parents and bought two homes in Detroit for $5,000 a piece. That's how I started. Now, what I tell everybody, the lesson in development or any bit in real estate is play the long game. Be patient. You can't go from zero to you or I in a year or even 2 years. It takes 25, 30 years. Now, people get kind of pitched on these great, things that happened, really during COVID time when money was cheap and everyone could make money. Well, today is different. Before then was different. And look, out of every 100 people, there's one person who does one thing exactly in the right place at the right time and strikes it rich, right? That's not how it
strikes. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
That's not how it goes. Now, obviously, a lot of it, Dave, is timing. I would say, it's not being the smartest person. It's just being in the right place at the right time and being able to take a healthy risk, right? That's what it is. Because look, in this business, it's all about taking risks. But I did not start, even though we have a family office. I wasn't given the keys to the office at 18 years old. And look, I paid that money back in the course of 12 months. One of those houses I sold a couple of years later for like 65 grand. The other one I held on to just 2 years ago and sold it for almost $600,000. Now, that's a great return. Now, that's not going to make you wealthy, but if you do more of that, you will be. And like I said, it takes decades. It's being patient, remembering, it's the tortoise, not the hare, right? It's a sprint. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? That is the secret to real estate. I preach to everybody, be patient, take your time. So what would be my advice to someone? Start small. I see so many, like this guy in Nashville, he's never done, development. He's just done a few home flips. He's pitching me 20-acre projects saying, hey, I want to do this next. And just someone recently, we're talking about one single project. He's saying, hey, look at this building, 500,000 square feet for redevelopment. No. First of all, you have no experience in anything like that. You don't have the capital. Dreamers are not the one, like you can be a dreamer. Like we all have vision and dreams, but ground yourself in reality, have a plan, don't look what everybody else has, especially people that are 30 years your senior, 30 more, and say, hey, I want that. Great. You want that, but find out how they got there. And I would say most of the case, they had to battle to get to that place. Most of the people that I work with in this business started from nothing. And even when you start from something, look, if you started with $500,000 and today you're worth $100 million, great. That's something, right? But yeah, I mean, I've had to play the long game, and I'm not where I am because anyone really gave me anything. Yeah, today I have a lot more access, a lot more capital to play with, but I worked my tail off starting at zero, starting at $10,000 to get to where I am.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a fantastic backstory for sure, Daniel. So I do have a question for somebody in your position right now. You're running a very successful family office. You've got over 1,000 people altogether working with you. Um, I would imagine, or I could be wrong, do you have a lot of people reaching out to you for advice, wanting to pick your brain, wanting to, buy you coffee, all this kind of stuff, which you so generously are offering? And if so, how do you kind of manage all of that? Because my experience has been quite often that, somebody wants to pick your brain. Uh, Quite often they don't even do anything with the advice that you give them. So you just end up spending a lot of time with people that aren't going to do anything anyhow. What's kind of your filter there for
Yeah, I
weeding out
mean,
the
Well, people reach out to me in all kinds of ways, and generally it gets weeded through one of my assistants, and they'll say, "Hey, this person, today somebody reached out and asked me for my phone number on LinkedIn," and I said, I don't give away my personal number,
Right.
and you can, talk to Jess, who's my assistant, and like, well, I only talk to, decision makers, and I said, great, well, I don't give out my personal number, and they said, okay,
Decided not to talk to you.
right,
I've made a decision not to talk to you.
right, so. That's kind of there's always a gatekeeper, and once look, and I always give this out. Once, I'm sure like yourself, within the first 5 minutes, you could tell, does this person want to listen? Right. If somebody just wants to tell me talk and then not expect anything in response, or pitch me on something that has nothing to do with, because that happens all the time. I'm sure you get on the call with someone and you're like, wait a second, this isn't what what I had signed up for. You're selling me on insurance. I don't need insurance. So I try to talk to everybody that is interested in a conversation. It could be 5 minutes, could be 15, it could be 20. And so but my assistants know well enough to kind of in that to say, okay, this person, yes, no, may, and a lot of times it's like, hey, I couldn't, quite figure this out. Take a look at this. What do you think? So, I probably do 5 to 10 kind of those calls a day. Right.
Wow.
And if one of them leads to something that's going to make me money, I'll take those odds all the time. And look, I'm where I am today because somebody listened and took the time to listen to me and talk to me and give me some good advice. So I feel like I want to give that back every single day.
What would you say is the best approach for people to approach someone like yourself to get your attention, to actually make an impact and have a much higher likelihood of getting that conversation? What do you
Well, I think just don't be afraid to reach out. The worst thing someone's going to say is no, right? So people are afraid of no. And don't ask questions that I can answer with no. I think the best people craft things where I'm like, that's interesting. So a lot of people will just ask me, say, hey, do you want to call? No. Right? so like
somebody's got to pique your curiosity a little bit.
Right. And I like to hear about people's personal journeys. That to me, when somebody, and look, I like people who try to find a way to find me. Effort is very attractive, right? If someone, and I think there's a lot of entitlement today, Dave, where people are just, especially in younger people, where they feel like I'm owed all of this. No one's owed anything, especially time. Time is our most valuable, precious commodity, right? We can make all the
we get, Daniel,
right? Right. Exactly. But you can make all the money, right? You can lose it and make it, but you could all get it all back, but you could never get back time, right? Yeah. So I think people are not, especially younger people, are not cognizant of that. I certainly wasn't when I was younger. I was like, oh, hey, I could waste waste time. And so I think, it's not just about age, it's just being respectful of that. And I think that there's this expectation where I get a lot of these kind of emails, and messages to me where I have to take the call, right? Like that kid today. He's like, well, I only talk to decision makers and, director, what? Great. Okay. Well, then you're not going to talk to me because you couldn't see that I was giving you an opportunity to talk to me. We just had to take one step, right? Yeah. And I'm never just going to give out my phone number on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I post a lot of articles there. I think of all the social platforms, it's the most valuable. And so I'm a big proponent of it. I try to write something and publish it every day, just things we've noticed. And I think that's a valuable place. But if someone, I don't know you, and you reach out to me and say, hey, give me your phone number, I want to talk to you. Yeah, that's not happening.
So what has been an approach that somebody's taken recently that caught your eye and
I like letters. I tell you, people who write me a letter,
like a physical letter.
Me, yeah. I'll take those all day long.
A handwritten letter, that's a rare thing these days.
If you took the time to write me a letter or even print it out, right? I can't read half people's handwriting, so I don't recommend doing that. But if you actually take the time to print me something and send it to me, I'm going to pay attention to that. Like, or a card, or someone who I think I have my birthday on LinkedIn. Like when someone sends me, an unknown person sends me a funny birthday card, I will talk to you. again, I think it's just being thoughtful and
Yeah.
putting effort in. I think those are the things that are really valuable. Now, just a simple, hey, I like I get these all day. I like what you're doing.
Mhm.
Can I talk to you about my project?
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, what's the response to that? It's either a yes or a no, right? I think that I have to see that you're offering something, right? I have to see that you put an effort. You have to try, and people fail all the time. And I think this is just sales 101. Don't ask questions that can be answered by a yes or a no. Ask a question that makes me pause before I answer, right? That's just a secret. A lot of people don't think of that, right? You are selling me you. Who are you, right? I always say that to people. Okay, who are you? And why are we having this conversation? And I tell you, when I ask that question to a lot of people, they're like,
Yep.
no.
Yep.
Right, exactly right. So, and it's preparation, Dave, is really important. I mean, a lot of people don't come prepared, or they become way over prepared. Get 15 minutes, they want to give a presentation that's going to be 4 hours.
Yeah.
And know your numbers, right? I mean, how many people pitch something and you ask them a question or something on their pro forma, and especially today, clearly they've used AI and they actually didn't do it themselves, right? And that's pretty easy to detect when I start poking holes in their their model, their financial model, and they can't answer the question because you didn't do it. And that goes back to effort. Put in the effort.
Well said. Hey, Daniel, this conversation took us down a slightly different path, but I think it was super valuable.
Yeah.
Because so many people do want to connect with folks like yourself, especially, family offices. People are always trying to connect with people in family offices, but I think the way they do it is very clumsy, very ineffective, very inefficient. So I really appreciate your point of view on how best to kind of break through the noise and make a little bit of an impact and get somebody's attention like that. So thank you very much for sharing that.
Oh yeah, thanks, Dave. And I love what you're doing too, and appreciate everything you're doing out there with your podcast.
Well, thank you very much. So, Daniel, speaking of connecting with people, if people want to take a run at connecting with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, if you want to connect with me personally, it's danielkaufmanre.com. RE is in real estate. Kaufman is a K, pretty standard, but just spell it out. It's Daniel, Daniel, KAUFMANRE.com. Or, if you want to know about us as a platform, it's thekaufmanco.com. That is our platform centric, and then all the social media and everything is there. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. Just look me up. There's a lot of people named Daniel Kaufman, but I think I'm right at the top.
There you go. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, take care, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Property Profits Podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, apply at daveinterviews.com.